In this lesson, we will implement CRUD for books, which has relation with user. If we go to edit, you can see a drop down for author. The options are all users. These options are coming from the user table, and there's also option to upload image for the book. Now if we name this book differently, we will be able to update this like this one, and we can also delete this. There will be a confirmation, and if we confirm this, that book is deleted. And we can also add book like demo book. We can choose a user, and we can leave image field blank. So submit this. You can see there's a placeholder image for this, no image, and this is our newly added book. Now let's get started. Now first look at the schema. Here in the user model, I have added this property books, which is the array of book, and this is the book model. And the only different thing is here it has two property. One is user ID, which will be mapped to this ID of the user, and we have a navigation property user that is specifying that it's a type of user, and the relation is that this will be the field and the reference is that ID. So this is actually specifying that one-to-many relationship. So each book will have only one user ID, and each user can have 0 or multiple books. So there's the one-to-many relationship in Prisma. Now after adding this, you need to run this command npx prisma migrate dev and enter. After running this command, it may ask you for the migration name. After running this command, your database will be updated. So let's close it. Now let's first add the APIs. So I'll add the folder here. Inside API folder, call this books, and let's add the route file here. So route.js, and it will be something like this. So these are the imports. This is the get API, which is actually getting books, all the books. There's no where condition, only include, and we are specifying the user because we will also read the user property for the book. Now let's minimize this one, and this is the post function to create the book. So first we are dealing with the uploading the image. If it's null, I mean if there's no file, then it will be empty string. Otherwise it will hold the name of the file, which will be stored in this path. And after that, we are actually creating the books instance here, then just returning 201 status with the updated, newly created book. Now let's save this and close this one. Let's add the specific folder, with parameter ID, and let's add the route file here. So add new file, route.ts. This will be something like this. So from the top you can see the imports, and after that this is the get API, where we are just adding this higher condition, this passing this ID parameter, and if the book is null, then we are returning 404 status with book not found error message. If it's there, then we are just returning the book. So that was the get. And for delete, it's actually this portion of code is same. If the book existed, then we are just deleting it. We are passing the ID in the where clause. So there's the delete. And for updating the book, this is the patch API, which actually doing the same thing, checking the book does exist. If it does exist, then we will come here and what it's doing. Now here initially the uploaded image URL will be the existing image URL, which could be empty string or could be anything. If we have a new file, I mean the user submitted a file, then we are uploading the file and updating this variable with this uploaded file name, and then in the last we are updating this book, calling this prisma.book.update, providing the where condition and the data. So this was our API. Let's save this and close this. Now let's add the components. So in the components folder, let's add a new file called book form. You can name this however you want. I will name this book form.tsx. So first let's generate the markup RAFCE and press tab. We'll generate this markup. Let's first add the imports. So these will be the imports. There we will need a prop, so let's define it here. This is the prop interface with ID and on book update event, callback event. This will be passed, I mean these two will be passed from the parent component. Now let's destructure the props here. So this will be our destructured property. Now let's add the state variables. So these will be our state variables. Now you might wonder why we will need these users. Well, we'll need this for the drop down for the author of the book. So let's add the function to fetch the users. So this will be the function to fetch the users. This is very simple. Now let's add the use effect for this. So this is the use effect which is invoking this function. It has zero dependencies, I mean empty array. So it will be actually invoked for the first time and this component renders. Now when we will edit any user, we will actually get the book. So this is the function for fetching the book. This is also very simple, and we will add a use effect for this function. So let's add the use effect here. So it has two dependencies. One is ID, which is props, and each page which we are managing. So let's minimize this also. So now let's add the function when the form gets submitted. So let's add it here. So this is the function for the form submission, and the form gets submitted. We are actually preparing the form data, and we are also checking if there is an image. Then we are just passing the form data in the event callback on book update. If that is successful, then we are just resetting the form. So let's minimize this also. Now let's add the markup. In this markup we will return a form. So this is a form. Let's break it down. Let's add down submit. Now under the form we will add the label to show add new book or edit book, and below this label we will add the inputs. So first one is for title, so this is the title label, this is the input, and this will be conditionally showed, and this is for the validation error. And after this we will have input for author. So this is the div, this is the label, and this is the input, I mean select input, and here you can see that the options are coming from the users. So and this is for the validation error. Now let's minimize this, also minimize the first one. Let's save this, and it's well formatted now. And after this we will add input for image upload. So this is for file input here for the image, and last we will add this submit button. Now let's save this, and this is complete, so we can close this. Now let's add another file. We'll call this book list.tsx. Let's generate the markup rfce. Okay, first let's add the imports. This will be the imports. Then I will add a book type here. Now inside this we will use two state variables. The first one is for books, which will be the list of book, and the second one will be book ID. I mean for the selected book. Actually initially it will be 0. Okay, now let's add a function to fetch all books. So this is the function. We can call this initialize books, and we have to actually invoke this on for the first time only. So use effect with empty array dependency. Now let's add some function for opening different models. So the first one is open edit model. The second one is for open new model, and creating new book. Then we are just setting the book ID 0. If not, then we are setting the ID, which we will pass from the button. And this is for deleting, and this is for opening delete model. Now let's add another couple of methods. One is for handle book update, which we will pass in the book form component. If the ID is 0, we are just creating it, and otherwise we are just updating this with this URL, book ID in the URL and the submitted data. And in the delete book, we are just calling this delete API and closing the model. So this was our functions. Now you may notice some classes that might not work for you. Actually I am using Daisy UI. In one of my previous lesson I showed that how to install Daisy UI. If you missed that, I'll put the link in the video description. So first I'll put this markup. On the left there will be book level, and in the right there will be button to open the model for creating new book. And after this div, I'll actually put the table to display the books. So this is actually the table. The table has two class, and this is t head, which is very simple, and the t body, we are iterating over the book array, and this is the single tr. You can see this. The first td holds the image and the title of the book, and if the book doesn't have any image URL, so we are actually outputting a default image, which you will find. I have added this image, no image.jpg. You can put any placeholder image for this. And in the next td, we are outputting the author name. This is the navigation property user and name. And the last td, edit and delete button. This is the edit, which is actually on click we are opening the edit model, and on click of the delete button we are actually opening the delete model. We are passing the ID of the book, and this is our table for the books, and below it we will have two models, so two dialogues actually. So this one is with ID book model. Remember, this ID should be book model. If you name this differently, then you have to modify this in these two function also, open new model and open edit model. So be careful with this ID name, otherwise they won't work. So this is very simple. This is for the closing the model, and this is the book form that we just created earlier. And another dialog for deleting. You can see that there is a button which will actually invoking this delete book on click. This is the delete function. We also need to add the page for books, so let's add the folder. Let's call it books, and let's add the page file here. So new file, page.tsx, and let's add the markup for HCE. We'll call this books, and here we'll add couple of classes, so container and mxauto, and then inside this div we will put this book list that we just created. So let's save this. Now let's run the project and see if everything is okay. So npm run dev. Let's open this in browser. Now our home page is working fine. Let's browse to /books. Okay, now let's try to create one, the first book. Let's select author one, user one. Let's submit this without the file, and this is it. Now let's try to edit this with some exclamation mark and user 5. Choose the file and update this. This is also working. Let's try to delete this first. This is okay. Let's delete this. Okay, so that was our one-to-many relationship CRUD. See you in the next lesson.